Hey everyone, welcome back to Piano for the Blind. Today is lesson 5, and I would like to say I apologize for the near end of lesson 4 where I got a bit scatterbrained. I record in an 80 to 90 degree room, it's quite hot, and I was more tired than I thought. So today's lesson should go a little bit better. So like I said, today is lesson 5, which will be teaching you more chords and more ways to play chords. So with that being said, I've already taught you 4 different kinds of chords: major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Hopefully you remembered those. And I'm going to teach you 2 ways to think about these chords. One is with intervals, so major thirds and minor thirds. The other is just a maybe more simple way to think about it. But we're going to be, I think, learning 5 new chords, but most of them are similar to what you already know, and they're just add-ons. So if you guys remember, I taught you the C major chord, C minor, and just like, the C major, you just, like, to make it minor, you just lower the second note by a half step. Well, we're going to take those and add on to each thing. And so the first one I'm going to teach you is going to be a C major 7 chord. So we're going to be learning 7th chords. So as you remember, a C major is just C, E, G. Well, you're going to add on a 4th note, and that is going to be with the B. You're going to add on a B. So it's going to be C, E, G, B. And that is a 4-note chord, or known as a major 7th chord. So it is a major chord, and it just has this 7th added on. And as you know, what makes a major chord is you just count from the first note to the second, and you just, if it's 2 whole steps or 4 half steps, then it's major. So what we're going to do now to make sure it's a major 7th chord, you're going to go to that 3rd note, which is G, and then you're just going to count how, I said the next note, the 4th note was a B. You're going to count the distance. So the G here, we're going to get to B, so A sharp, not A sharp, G sharp, A, then A sharp, then B. So again, from the G, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is a major 3rd. And so if you count from the 5th, or from the 3rd note to the 4th note there, and it's a major 3rd, then it's a major 7th chord, assuming the base of the chord is major. But yeah, that is a major, C major 7. Then we're going to do a C minor 7. So, if you remember C minor, I didn't talk about C minor as much, but it is C, E flat, and G. And it is the same way. So, the note, now we're going to do a C minor 7. So it'll have those notes, and you just add a 4th, which is the B flat, or A sharp. And you'll do the same thing. So from the 5th, from that G, you just count till you get to that 4th note I talked about. So that'll be 1, 2, 3. And so it's 3 half steps, or 1.5 whole steps. And that is a minor 3rd, and that makes a minor 7th chord. So hopefully you remember that. But just, it's pretty easy to remember minor chords. And like minor 7th chords and major 7th chords, because you just add another note that's like, a 3rd apart, and either it's a major 3rd or a minor 3rd. And so it's pretty easy to remember. So now I'm going to teach you the next chord, which this is, you can think of it based on a major chord, but it is called a 7th chord, just a 7th chord. It's called a C. In this case, it'll be a C 7th chord. And so that chord is going to be C, E, G, E flat. So this is C major, and then this is C7. And all you do to make a normal, it's actually called a dominant seventh. So it is a C dominant seventh, or if you just hear like a screen reader reading out like C7, that is a dominant seventh. And all you do is, so you take your normal C major 7 chord, and you lower that fourth note by a half step. So that B goes down to a B flat. And then that makes a C7 chord, or a C dominant 7th. And what these chords are, think of them in, so you know how I talked about how the fifth chord in a scale likes to have tension, and it likes to resolve to the 1 chord. Well, you use the dominant 7th chord. When you're using 4-note chords, it will transform that 5th note into a dominant 7th when you add the 4th note in there. And so it basically just makes it even more, right? It does the job of like that 5 chord, but it enhances it to make it even stronger, wanting to go to the 1 chord. So I will give you an example if I can. This might be a little difficult, but so I'm going to do, so you know the 5th to a C major scale is a G major, right? It is a G major. So you just want to add the 4th note to this, which is F. Oh. So you're just going to add F. So, a G major chord, I believe I already taught this, is G, B, D. And then you just add the F. And that is a G dominant 7th. And so this will want to resolve to the C major. So I'll just demonstrate it. So we'll just go to the dominant 7th. And so, yeah, it's just another way to resolve back to the 1 chord. You can use it for other things, too, if you want to play around with it. But that is how you make a dominant 7th chord. Then we're going to go over a quick one. So it's literally an augmented 7th chord. So the C, so if you guys remember, the augmented chord is just a major chord, but you take that 3rd note and you raise it up a half step. So C major, C augmented major, C augmented. And so you do that, and then you just add that B in there. So, you just add that B for like the C major 7, but with the augmented part of it. And that makes a C augmented 7th chord. Then we're going to talk about the C half diminished chord. So a half diminished chord there is a full diminished chord, which I will teach you shortly. But the half diminished chord is basically, think of it in the form of a minor 7th chord. So think of the C minor 7 that I just taught you. So C, E flat, G, B flat. That is a C minor 7. C minor 7. So you just take a minor 7th chord and then lower the 3rd note. And you lower that 3rd note by a half step. And then that makes a half diminished chord. So this is a C minor 7. And then again, just lower that 3rd note in the chord by a half step. And you get a half diminished 7th chord. And then if you want to make it fully diminished, all you do is that 4th note, which is currently on the B flat or A sharp, it's on that 4th note, you just lower that one by a half step as well. and then you get fully diminished. So this is half diminished, and then lower that fourth note by a half step, and that's a fully diminished seventh chord. And so that is 5 more chords for you guys to play around with. You know, take notes or like kind of take this stuff down to try to remember them. So, you know, you have a good amount of chords to play around with. Hopefully you guys got that and, you know, can understand what I'm talking about to make these chords. They're very fun. They're my favorite types of chords. Seventh chords are my favorite types of chords. So you can play around with that once you've got things down. But I am going to teach you something else in this lesson, which is why I said it might go a bit long, and I might extend it even more to teach you another chord progression just for fun, to give you guys something else to play with. But we'll see where that lands. So the next thing I'm going to teach you is different ways of playing chords. So I taught you these chords intentionally so I could go ahead and teach you how you would play 4-note chords differently, just as well as 3-note chords, but it all kind of ties together. So we'll just talk about inversions. So you guys know we're just gonna go with like a C major, C, E, G, and I've talked about you can play the chord like this. You can do something else that's called arpeggios, which is where you just, you know, you're playing the same note, C, E, G, but you're playing it in a like rhythm like that, a pattern like that, and it's called arpeggios. And that's a way you can play them, but you can also mix the chord up. So, as you guys know, I told you the root position of a note, or of a chord, is C. In this case, it is the first note that kind of dictates what the chord is, but you can mix these notes up to get a different sound. Like, there's actually 2 reasons why you would want to do this, and this is called inversions. And if you're playing 3-note chords, there's 2 inversions, and if you do 4-note chords, there are 3 inversions. So we're going to take our C major as a thing. I apologize if you hear a dog barking. It's next door, and I have no control over that. But anyways, so our C major chord, when you just play it like this, that is called root position. But then we're going to go to the first inversion. And you can do this with any chord. So first inversion of C major. So you're just going to play, you're going to move up, and you're going to play the E, the G, you're going to play the E, G, and then the higher up C. And this is still a C major, because you know that a normal C major is C, E, C, C, G. But if you just, as long as you're still playing these same notes, it doesn't matter the order, it is still a C major chord. So in this instance, like I said, this is first inversion, and it's E, G, and then you go play the higher C with your thumb. This is still a C major, and that is first inversion. And then to do second inversion, you just go up to the G, and you do G, G, C, E. And this is also a C major. And what I'm doing here is I have like my index finger on the higher C and my thumb on the higher E, and my pinky on the G here. And that is that is second inversion for a C major. But like I said, there is actually a third inversion if you use 4-note chords. So we're just going to go through this again, just with the C major 7 chord, which I taught you, which is the 4-note chord that is C, E, G, and B. And so we're just going to mix this up again, like we have, and we're going to do E, G, B, and C. And that is first inversion for a C major 7 chord. And then we're going to go up to G, B, C, and then E. And that is second inversion for the C major 7, because we're doing 4 notes. And now, because there are 4 notes, there is a third inversion that is not in a 3-note chord. It's in only 4-note chords. And so you're going to go up to the B. So B, C, E, and then G. And that is how you do the third inversion for a C major 7 chord. And so those are inversions, and you might be asking, why would someone want to do this? And the reason is because basically you have 2 reasons why. One is the sound. As you noticed when I played them, they sounded a little differently. So when you want to play a C major or a C major 7, but you don't want to play it the standard way, you want to change it up and how it sounds a little bit, then you can do that, and you get kind of a different vibe from it, a different sound that you can play around with. That's one reason. A second reason is because with inversions, it makes you able to switch to chords very quickly, and I'm going to give you a quick example here. So, you know, the E minor chord, so E, G, B. Well, it's very simple here. So say you wanted to go from one chord to another. So I would have to do, and this isn't a big gap, so it's not the best example, but it will prove a point. So we're playing E minor, and then you jump over to a C major. But what if we didn't want to have to jump over to the next chord? What if you could just move a couple fingers without jumping over to another chord and play that same chord? So we'll be on the E minor, E, G, B, E, G, B. Well, something you could do if you know the notes of what a C major is, which is C, E, G, all we would have to do is that B, move up to the C that's next to it, and that will make a C major, just in the first inversion. So see, so E minor, and I'm going to go to the first inversion of C major, which is just moving that B up to a C. Now I'm going to do it where I would just jump to the C major chord. That's just a little short ways, but this is different. See, I have to jump over to it, but if I just wanted to make it more of a smoother transition, then you would just do an inversion to quickly and more smoothly get to different chords. So you can play around with that, and you don't have to use them, but it can, be good for experimentation, change it up. So, you could do the jumping around to different chords, or you could do it that way, or maybe you don't like the sound of that, it's all personal preference. I am just teaching you different ways to play chords and different things you can do with them, and whatever might suit you best. I really want a lot of experimentation for you guys to have fun with this. But since I think that this might be going a little bit long, there is other ways to play chords, but I think I will save them for a future lesson, and I will just leave you with that. But as I promised, I will teach you another chord progression using 7th chords, and it's not a big one. So what we're going to do, it is a 2-5-1 chord, and it's kind of a jazzy type of chord progression, the 2-5-1. So we're going to do C major, as always. I could do a different scale, but we're just going to stick to C major. So we're going to use the 2nd chord, the 5 chord, and then the 1 chord of the C major, but these are all 7th chords, so remember that. So you're just going to do D minor 7, which is D, D, F, A, C. D, F, A, C and that is a D minor 7th chord. It is the 2 chord in a C major scale when you're using a 4-note chord, 7th chords. And then you're going to go to the 5th, which is the G, and this is a G dominant 7th. And that is G, B, D, F. It is the G dominant 7th that I taught you, the G7, the 5th of the C major scale when you're using a 4-note chord. And then back to C, the C major 7, back to just going to C major 7. And so that is another chord progression, the 2, 5, 1. And as I said, it can be kind of more of a jazzy type of progression, so I'll just play a little bit just to give you an example, kind of. Again, this mic is in the way, so I'm going to do my best here. But yep, just like that. But that was just a little bit of an example. I apologize, my mic made it hard to actually play the G 7th chord. But that, like I said, is another chord progression, the 2, 5, 1. Use it in a major scale. I mean, you can use it in minor scales too, but mainly just use it for major right now. But just something else for you to mess around with. But yeah, hopefully you guys have gotten everything. You've gotten the chords I taught, the different ways to play them, and then this other chord progression. And hopefully I've given you guys a lot to play around with. So I think that's it for this lesson. I think I've gotten everything for now that I want to teach. So this has been lesson 5, and I will see you guys in the next lesson.